Welcome to the Millionaire Journey Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to guide and empower you on your journey towards financial independence. Here's your host, Glenn Yaney.
Today, my guest is Matthias Grüenwald with DCG Investments. Welcome, Matthias.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. We've never really spoke until before the podcast, but we did meet at the MHI conference, and your business partner, Tim Woodbridge, I've had on the podcast before, and you guys have made some insulting offers on our property. So it's
You're welcome.
we'll have a good talk.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
If you could just tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into real estate and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, man. Let me rewind a little bit. So where I started, right? So 13 years ago, I moved from Germany to the United States. At that time, for my W-2, I was the chief operating officer for a manufacturing company in automotive. Very high stake, high pace, fast paced environment, obviously, and really built a skill set in operations. As a chief operating officer, you live and breathe operations, obviously. And with that, you're building a lot of processes, you hire and fire, and you learn, you fail forward and all that. So I've been in that position for many years. And then at some point, COVID hit. And I think that everybody hit the reset button. The entire world did. And manufacturing slowed down for a while. So I was kind of like thinking, okay, I do have this job that's really well paid, but I pay a lot in taxes. This can't be it. There must be something else. I don't feel fulfilled, so to speak. So I started reading books and listening to podcasts, which I haven't really done majorly before. I always read, but there was fiction stories, whatever. But I got into really reading about wealth creation and personal development more. And then I realized, okay, there's another path for this. And I'm actually in the red race. And I called myself, being in the red race. Yep. So when I did more research and I read some real estate books specifically, and I realized the tax benefits of real estate, which are phenomenal, right? The legal loopholes, if you will, they're existing in real estate. So I was like, that can't be legal, It's some of the things you can do with tax write-offs and bonus depreciation with the cost segregation studies and everything you can do. So I got more and more involved in real estate and just try to mingle with other people, at conferences and local meetups, and just join them and just try to be the dumbest guy in the room and ask questions. And then we decided, my wife and I talked about it and said, okay, before we get our first child, we want to build that side hustle and start it up and build it. So once our son comes into an age, or daughter at the time, we didn't know, of course, we can actually be there for the soccer game or whatever it is, for the dance or whatever it is. We want to have that freedom, because my W-2 was very time consuming. So we decided to go into small multifamily, because I always loved multiple income streams per property. I never was intrigued by single family. It just wasn't really what I was going into. Then we started with a duplex. We did a ton of offers on other properties, never worked out. It was 2021 we really got started on making offers. And at that time, the rates were as low as they ever been, right, in history. So everybody was buying. It was crazy. And then on December 23rd, one day before Christmas Eve, a duplex fell out of contract, and we made a lowball offer because our agent told us, hey, this is falling out of contract. You guys should make an offer. And we did, lowball offer, and they jumped on it. They needed a sale. So we got a really good price on it, on that deal. And we still have the duplex today. It cash flows nicely. And we got a 3.7% rate on it, 3.6, 3.7 or something on that thing, which is a pretty good rate. And it cash flows. So, and from there, it was just proof the concept. Law of the first deal kicked in, right? And then we just said, okay, now we want to go double. Let's get a 4-unit. And we did the 4-plex in 2023. And from there, it just escalated to now. We actually merged into mobile home parks late 23, early 24, where I met my partner, Tim Woodbridge, and we founded WCG Investments, and buying mobile home parks as many as we can and make insulting offers like to you, Glenn,
Yeah.
trying to get the best deals we can get for our investors, obviously. In the meantime, we have over 600 units combined in over 16 communities.
What I do like about the offer, even though it was not even near the price I was looking for, is the many different options that you guys offered, and it just is an example of how to get a deal done. I think that there was certain seller financing, there's some equity that they were offering, then there's then there was just a all out cash out, and I think that's just an example of how you get deals done. Is I went to some meetup last night, and I thought to myself, I'm talking to a lot of newer investors and people that are just getting started, and it's amazing. Even your story with buying the duplex uh, maybe you underwrote it and it was a good deal. It turned into a great deal, and it's like, but it was not even that wasn't the greatest deal as the monetary reward. It was actually the knowledge of doing it. And for me, my first couple deals, I mean, they turned out well, but on paper, it probably didn't make a lot of sense. Buying some condos and stuff like that, and it's just getting started, writing those offers and making figuring out how to get the financing done. That's the hurdle now. You can find deals if you have figuring out the finance aspect of it.
That's so true. Yeah. And the duplex that we have right now, I mean, it's a very solid base hit, but it's not a home run. That is not life changing.
Exactly.
But what is life changing? Just proving the concept you can make a deal happen. And that wasn't a tough market, arguably. I'm still proud we got that thing done because we really got a cheap duplex in our market, and it's a solid asset. Actually, this year in 2025, at the time of the recording, we're probably losing money on it because the AC went out. We had a major leak in the attic, and now we have like a huge hole in the ceiling in the kitchen, and we have to get that repaired. So this year, we're probably gonna wipe out all the cash flow by repairs. And that's just how real estate works. And next year, hopefully, it's gonna make money again, obviously. But of course, if you underwrite this properly, you have the capital reserves that you're carving out, and so to speak. So if you look back over the last 4 years I've owned it, it's still positive, if that makes sense. It's just like it's not a linear growth, so to speak. I mean, you have the rent increases that are coming in. There was under market rents when we took over, so that helps a lot. But overall, I mean, it's like entrepreneurship, right? It's not like a steady paycheck. It's up and down, and then a couple of swirls, and then up and down again. It's a major roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when I think about the duplex, and you're saying that you may have not made any money, it's like that just reiterates the value of larger unit counts, because it's almost like an insurance policy. Like if you have an insurance company, has a policy on millions of houses or thousands of houses, and there's going to be claims. And if they had just one policy on one house and they factored their whole business operation on one property, that's just an example of that would end up not working out in their favor. And that's why it's so, like, a lot of people kind of talk about people being worried about unit count, but unit count matters when you are trying to offset the risk. And if you have 10 units, your cash flow could drop 10% and just from a vacancy. And then if you have a big roof, it might drop by 100%. So it's kind of like, how do you get to from 10 to 100, or how do you diversify yourself or bring on partners to spread the risk, through the partners, but actually make it more stable through having bigger and larger assets?
Correct. That's absolutely right. Once we got into commercial real estate, and the reason why we really got into commercial was because of the economy of scale. Once you're underwriting the bigger deals, you realize now how much safer they actually are. Yes, the zeros kind of are scary in the beginning, because the first time you get into like the 50 units, 100 units, you have to, the down payments are multi-million sometimes, even on mobile home parks, and that scares you a little. But then you start the capital raising muscle. And you understand you don't have to use your own capital necessarily. I always like to put my own capital into deals as well, alongside the investors, of course. But you don't have to put $2 million down yourself. If you need $2 million, that's kind of the whole point. And then that's really the main reason why we really got into commercial real estate, for the scalability. And also, the bigger the deal gets, you see in the underwriting, the more you do it, they actually feel a lot safer because you have more economy of scale. Like, we make an offers on 300 plus unit mobile home parks right now, or in portfolios, and what you can pay a on-site manager, property manager, and you can pay them easily $50,000-$60,000 a year, which is life-changing money for some people. They maybe do that on the side because that's all they have to do is to do the main gig throughout the day, and then do like community management in the afternoon. That's a lot of money on the side for them. You don't have that if you buy a 5-unit mobile home park or a 10-unit mobile home park, right? You don't have that scale. And the zeros might be scary in the beginning, but the zeros can actually help you, because you have, if somebody moves out or 10 people move out on the 200 unit, it's nothing. It's 5%, so it's not a big deal. On the duplex, one moves out, you're 50% vacant. Makes a big difference to your income.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think of, we have a 10-unit park, and then we have a 40-unit park. And the 10-unit park is on one drain field. And that drain field, would probably, I'm assuming it'd probably be close to $20,000 to $30,000 to replace it. And we'll say that the total revenue for the park is probably close to 8 to 9,000. And if you think about how long it would take to save up for that next septic tank, it like wipes away a lot of of the cash flow over time. But then we have a tank, a park with 46 units, and we got a sudden $40,000 septic tank when we bought it. 2 weeks into it, we're like, I mean, we did the due diligence, we had them inspected, and then we were just starting out. But at the same time, it was like a $40,000 septic tank. It turned into being 50,000 because there were so many replacements. But because of the revenue, I think the revenue for that place is around 30 to 35. It's like it was able to, and the margins were good. So it's kind of like for that one, we, instead of using all of our CapEx, we just got a loan and borrowed against, just to get it cash flowed and to stabilize it. But to get a loan with a 10-unit park, you'd almost over leverage it, so it's like that's the value of owning a bigger unit counts. And that's kind of been my thing with figuring out how to buy more units together. Even if they're smaller parks, you maybe group them together. 60 units is probably a good place to start. And then, ideally be over 100 units at a time that are kind of pooling the risk together.
Certainly, yeah. We did that too last year when we bought, in one of our syndications, we bought a portfolio of my local market, which is 100 units, but it was 4 parks, right? One was like 30-something units and 18, the other was 20-something. So, but they're all within like 10 minutes from each other. So they're really easy to manage, but it's a portfolio. They probably bought them one at a time and then they sold them as a portfolio. That gives you instant scale in the same market because you just need like one, handyman, so to speak, that can go everywhere, one community manager, etc. One phone number, you can use it for all 4 parks really, for the property manager. So this scale helps a lot. And I think that's where a lot of people trip up too when they're getting started in real estate, and usually get started with like a single family home or duplex. They try to get the cheapest home. The problem with that is you might cash for $100, $200, but your gross is pretty low, gross income. And the roof's going to cost you $10,000, $15,000, no matter if it's a bigger house. Maybe if you look at like the comparison between what a roof costs in a $500 million house, how much that actually makes you as gross compared to like a $100,000 house, depending on your market, of course. The roof is marginally more expensive on the bigger house compared to a smaller house. The small house might still be 10 grand, on the big house maybe 25, but the income might be like 5 or 6 times higher. But the cost might be only twice as high. Same happens with commercial real estate, right? The bigger. The drain fee of fixing that is going to be almost always the same cost, or like those big tanks to replace, almost always the same cost. But if that happens in the 10 unit, like you said, or 100 unit, big difference. That can really make it insolvent on one deal, or over leverage, like you said, if you get a line of credit or something. Or the other one is completely fine because you can underwrite the capital reserves a couple $1,000s a year or $10,000 a year because you have enough gross coming in to cover that. So I love the bigger deals. I actually am more excited about doing the bigger ones, or parks that in strong markets where at least like the lot rents are really high for mobile home parks. Like in your market, Glenn, like Tampa, you have like $700, $800, $900 lot rents, and that's double compared to my home market, where we like $450, $500. So
yeah,
big difference too. There's a lot more money coming in,
and there's room to grow on those rents when they're 900. You get up to 1,000 or so. Yeah,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah. So the yeah. So the other thing I was thinking of is you and I are very similar positions. We wear a lot of hats in the business. But you also focus on operations just like I do. And yeah, so tell us how what made you decide to leave your full-time job? Sounds like it was a good paying job to go start buying mobile home parks. Like, what was the equation in your mind that was like, this is why I should do this?
Yes. Really back to like 2020, 2021, where we decided I want to have more time freedom, really.
Yep.
And this, you're still running a business with running the syndications, obviously, but they're more flexible, not tied to a location. The big thing with manufacturing is you're always tied to a manufacturing location. So we always wanted to, move to different locations in the country. We made the move from Germany to US, and US is such a, great and big country. We want to move to our locations too, not just be in Greenville, South Carolina. And don't get me wrong, I love Greenville, South Carolina, but we've been here now 13 years, and we are getting really antsy to like move somewhere else just because we can now. We have that freedom, like the bird that gets set free.
Yeah.
That really was like the big one behind it. And of course, at the time we were planning to get our child and bring into our world. So we want to have that freedom. We can be there for him or her. And of course now my son is 3 years old, and actually as of the time of this recording, my wife is actually sick right now, and I have the freedom just to say I take care of him this morning, and she can sleep in, because I couldn't have done that with my W-2. And really that freedom is what we were going after. And then the equation in my mind was, okay, well, how much do we really need like cash flow to survive? And also, if you run a syndication business, you have more than one income stream, right? You have acquisition fees, and you're making the deal. You have asset management fees, and you have promote, of course, and you have capital event fees, whatever, like when you refi or when you sell. So, and also like the big check in the end, if you want to call it a big check, if you exit a deal, that's that as well. So I always was analyzing on those deals that we were making with mobile home parks. Okay, what's the total compensation projected for me if I get that much equity as a GP? And see how many deals I have to do and kind of balance that out, because it's not going to be always the same, right? It's going to be fluctuating from month to month. And in the meantime, building that war chest of like, okay, we're going to save money to make sure if there's a dip and the income dries up, we can survive, if that makes sense. So we built really all the cash flow, even to this day, from the duplex to fourplex, we haven't touched a dollar, nothing. It's just sitting on the side and gets reinvested. We haven't spent it, it's invested, if that makes sense. So actually the fourplex, we're going to refi now and pull that money out and buy another property just to, keep that money coming and, use that money to buy assets that buy us time back, so to speak, and buy us freedom. So, and then really just have that red race number, like Robert Kiyosaki said, right? Like in the cash flow board game that he has. We played that like 100 times probably in that time frame, just to like motivate us. Okay, that's how you get out of the red race. We played that as a family. It was kind of funny looking back. But once we got close to that number, then we were like, okay, now we actually got what we wanted. And we were like, whatever you focus on expense, might as well give it a shot, and I just left the W-2. And it's not always like the one-to-one number, because you pay a lot less taxes if you're in real estate. Obviously, you get a lot of tax benefits. So you don't have to compare like, okay, what's your gross here and the gross here is not going to be the same take home, obviously. So I'm pretty analytical, and I'm the underwriter on our team, so I can run those numbers pretty easily. And I was like, okay, we can make it with that number. That's like the survive number, and then I made a number, and then the thrive number. And we hit the survive number really well when we knew, okay, with this income now averaged out with all the income streams that we have, we can make it. We crossed that threshold and said, okay, now we go all in. And last year I resigned from my W-2, and my last day of my W-2 was January 10th. So really just like five months ago, almost exactly 5 months ago.
Nice.
So still pretty fresh in it. In the beginning, it's scary, man. I must say, it's definitely leaving that like steady paycheck is scary in the beginning. Now I feel really set free. I don't miss it at all. I feel like I eat what I'm killing. But in the beginning, you feel like you turn your back on family. I don't know. I built a really strong team in my W-2. I feel like I let them down, but they were so supportive. They have all those doubts going through your mind, and it's like, is this a mistake? Do I put my family's well-being on the line? And what about health insurance? Like everybody, what about health insurance? You don't have a W-2 anymore. Of course, there's solutions, but in your mind, it's bringing you like all the dangers, like all the alarm bells going off. But like 5 months later, we're still breathing, we're still eating, we're still drinking. I think we live in the best life right now. I'm so glad we did it. It's working really well. And Tim and I at WCG Investments, we're making a lot of deals and making a lot of offers, obviously, and see what sticks. I know not all of them are sticking, as you guys can see with Glenn, obviously, but some of them do.
Work in progress. It's work in progress, right?
You try to pierce into the Tampa market, man. It's an expensive market. I know there are low cap rates down there.
Yeah. So, a lot of things you said were right on point. And I think for me, I had the same story where I had kids. Once I had my first daughter, and then I think I left my W-2 like really like 6 months after my second daughter was born. And a lot of the fears that happened, but I would say the one thing that solved a lot of those problems is cash flow. And I've left my job in the past to go on some venture, to go try to make some entrepreneur venture. And I've learned that cash flow, if it's not there, it's a lot more stressful. And even if you're even the year I left my job, I think I made like 50, 60,000. And that's pretty good for just going from like 100% going into 100% commission type job. It's just the waking up of am I going to be able to make any money today? But when you have cash flow, it turns into, is my fears realistic? And when you're on 100% commission, yes, they are realistic. You might not make money for a while. And when you have cash flow, it's like, okay, I have this warm blanket. It's covering my overhead or covering a big portion of it to where, is it unrealistic that I have to come up with a couple $1,000s with doing what I'm doing? It's like, or maybe I have a little bit in my reserve fund that is able to cushion any slow months and stuff like that. But yes, that's a big deal. And I would say I feel like it's I don't know if it's called confirmation bias, but like when you have like young kids, or say even when my wife was pregnant, you start to see how many people are pregnant, and the having kids will change your perspective. But it seems like everybody I'm around is like seeking that, also have like very young kids, and it's just a total mindset shift. And somebody told me that a while ago. They said when you have kids, the way you think is going to be different, and your value on time becomes way more valuable, because even being self-employed, you're very busy with kids. There's like, you start to, your mind, I think, is trying to figure out how to expand your time. Like, how do I expand my time? I can't. So it's like this thing where people say when you have kids, you need to be financially successful. But it's like almost like the kids drive you to be more financially successful, because you're trying to figure out how to expand your time to be around them, to have your own time. And that's really what cash flow does for you.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah. It sets you free and gives you that freedom. That is absolutely true. So that's why I always love the real estate side, because you basically buying like a pipeline of money and not a bucket of money,
Yeah.
If you do a lot of commission-based stuff and sales, it's great. But once you stop working on it, it's like flipping homes. I never was ever interested in flipping homes, because I was like, if I stop doing it, I'm not getting paid. I hate that. I just want to buy something that's going to pay me over and over and over again until I actually sell the thing. And then it's going to pay me again because I sold it. That's the way I looked at it. I always want to have the stream of money coming through, and make my goal now and make that stream bigger for myself and also for our investors, right? So they have their passive income, their LPs in our deals, and they come in and get the 2 to 3x equity multiple in our deals. So in less than 5 years. So that's what we're aiming for. We all can make money on in the meantime, and improving communities. So that has a big why behind it. In my W-2, we made car parts, and it's kind of funny. Like when we had major issues at the W-2, I always told the team to calm them down. I always said, we're just making car parts here. We're not, healing patients. So don't take it too personal, whatever's happening at work. It's still important. Yes, we have to get a job done. I get it. But nobody's dying. We just make car parts, But now we're actually impacting communities positively. So actually, not only for me, we have more freedom because of it, but we're also impacting people's lives positively, because we go in and buy communities. They're sometimes very mismanaged. And we come in and we actually give people a voice. I mean, some people are grateful that we just pick up the phone, and that's just sad, because the operator before didn't pick up the phone ever, and just neglected everybody, and just were haunting them if they didn't pay rent. That's about it. That's the only communication that I had. I was very one way. We can positively impact that, and I think that it helps you also to stay motivated, and then buy back your time. Then you have more time with your family, which I totally agree with you said, Glenn. Once you have kids, you rethink everything in life. Is this worth it? What should I do here? And you always act with the end in mind, but the end is always like, how much time can I spend with my family, and how much time does I take away from my family? Also, since we have our son, I'm a lot more strict with my time. I say no a lot. Somebody wants to have a call at 6:30. Nope, not happening. That's when I take my son, upstairs, and we take a bath and play around, and then he goes to bed, at 7:30ish. It's like a strict no. Before then, I would have worked until like 10 p.m. But with my son, not happening. So.
Yeah, and then do you figure out how to delegate as well? Instead of working to 10 p.m., you're like, who can I get to do this for me?
Exactly right. Yeah, that's key when you grow and scale. You need to delegate.
Hey guys, if you want to learn more about our deals we're investing in, go to our website and sign up for our free ebook, 10 Reasons Mobile Home Parks Outperform Other Real Estate Investments. We won't spam you. We'll just keep you updated on the podcast and the deals we're working on. Now back to the show. So, one other thing I heard when you're telling your story, and what I really like is really hearing about your wife and partner, and I think for me, it's like when you have that, you also, like, you guys are playing the cash flow game and stuff like that. I think I woke up one day from a nap, middle of the day. This is before kids, and I was just like, I woke up and I told my wife, I said, look, if we can save 70% of our income, you're not going to have to work in like 3 or 4 years. And so I said, let's just save. I mean, where I put the money wasn't exactly ideal, is 401k and stuff like that, which I would not recommend today. But I would say that I just said, let's save 70% of our income. And because we've gotten to our lifestyle of like, we're paying off debt, we don't have car loans, we don't have like the extra stuff, we don't have this crazy expensive house or where we're living. And it's like, let's figure out how to save 70%. And then when it did happen, where my wife, we ended up getting married and having kids. When the kids came, it was like, you don't have to go back to work. And I have no pressure on her to go back. And I want her to be fulfilled and do whatever she wants to do, as in, like, she might look into building something out for herself, but it's not money driven. And that's perfect by me. Like, I see myself as the provider, and that was like the vision that we painted, and I could see that with you in the playing the cash flow game together. It's just like, how do we get there? And it's not even like we're sacrificing, because we're doing it together.
Exactly right. So at that time, my wife was also still working. And then we decided, once we get our child, that she will stop working. That was very important to us, because we want to make sure we raise him and not somebody else. It's kind of people have to do what they have to do, but we didn't want him to be like given away to some caretaker for half of the day of his waking hours, like to somebody else. Some people have to do it. That's fine, but that wasn't an option for us. So we wanted to buy back her time as fast as possible, so she can stay at home, and then I was next, so I can stay at home. Which that was really a 4-year grind for both of us. And the reason why we played the cash flow game is just like really manifesting it, and also like practicing the muscle of investing and making the right financial decisions. And a little of a cheat code. It's not really a cheat code, but really living under your means is, people say it a lot, but many don't do it that way. And I think that really sets you free a lot earlier. If you always keep up with the Jonases, that just sets you back every single time. I have other people, they were along me for the ride with, on the same path. And then I saw them buying a house, and all of a sudden they tripled their mortgage payments. Like, that's not how you get out of the red race, And we bought our house 2017. We didn't even think about real estate at that time, here in Greenville, South Carolina. And that market is really hot. So the house doubled in value in the meantime. What I did is, when we decided to do real estate, I refied the thing, took money out, buy that duplex. And when we bought it in 2017, the rate was like 4.5%, because they were higher, of course, at that time. We refied, cash out refi, I think we have 2.9% now. My mortgage payment, including insurance and taxes, are $1,000 a month. I have people in my mobile home parks that pay more rent on a mobile home than I pay for my 2,400 square foot house. And the reason why we did it that way is because we can get out of the red race quicker. That's why we said, we don't move, we don't do anything until we achieve that. Then we can, focus on our business, make that grow, and then we can decide to move. Once we build that income up, that cash flow up, that we can say, now we can upgrade. But we're going to upgrade from income from assets, not from earned income, which is highly taxed. So that's something we really both decided to say, okay, if you want to stay in this house, we're going to upgrade it, which we did over time. We spent a lot of money in it in the beginning. It's a beautiful property. It's out in the country. We have over an acre land. It's super nice. We love it here. So we don't feel rushed to move anyway. It's nice and it's cheap. I mean, right now, if I buy the same house, I'll probably pay like $2,500 to $3,000 a month, all in monthly payments. So that helps a lot with the cash flow. So that's what we did.
Yeah. So as you were saying that, and like back to the story of like having a family, and there's a lot of barriers, mental barriers that we could have. And I was thinking, like, I have a very similar. I think every real estate operator that I've ever talked to had in some way house hacked, and I think. So some people would say house hacking is when you move into the duplex and then you have the other rent out the other side and the tenants pay for it. But I mean, in your scenario, I would say you were living in a house, you have all this equity, really making $0. You don't want to pull it out and buy a BMW, but you're looking at it as, if I were to buy this house and have 2 other units attached to it, that's what you kind of just did. You took the money out and you bought another. So you pretty much essentially house hacked that your own personal house, and it's like a different way of doing it. So like I have very similar, like I had a house that I lived in, and then I got the mortgage down to $500 a month, and then I used the cash flow from that property to move into the next property. And then then I started understanding equity and like figuring out, I mean, how much return am I actually getting on that equity? And then I learned that I'm like, well, I have over 100,000 of equity, and I don't really want to borrow against it because I felt like it would be leveraging up unnecessarily in that scenario. So I actually sold that house, and then I went out and bought 12 units of mobile home parks, and that's when I really became financially independent. But that same story is like we're using the house, we buy a good deal, and then we somehow figure out a way to. And I will tell you, the way that I bought that house was not the right way. Like I'll tell you just a story. I bought the house with the budget of $25,000 renovation. I ended up spending $50,000, and at the time I moved out of the house, I might have. I think I was probably break even, but what I had done is I paid down the mortgage, and the mortgage was like 3% at the time. I just paid it down to where I was like, I just want a $500 mortgage. The second I got the $500 mortgage, I was like, I should move out, rent this one out, and then I'll move into my other house. It was like that mental barrier that I had of like that because my overhead is really low and I couldn't really understand how people could buy single family homes and only make $200. But now I'd moved out and this property was going to make me $1,000. So whether it was gross revenue, I mean, the expenses come up later, but it turned into where that $1,000 was lowering my overhead at my new house. And it's all about savings. Like I was just constantly saving, lowering my expenses, saving. And then you get to a certain point where you can't do it anymore. And then you just have to start putting it into cash flow and assets.
Exactly right. Yeah. It's basically what we did too. That's right on the money here. Because when we decide to move into another house, we will keep this one as a rental because we have that low payment, and then just like use that to lower my overhead on the next one, because the next one's not going to be $1,000 a month unless I put substantial money down, but I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
I would rather take that money and invest in another asset that cash flows again, right? So yeah, same thing. That's exactly the plan we have right now. And the area here is pretty much growing very rapidly. I think just across the street from my neighborhood, they're building a country club, like invitation-only golf course they're building, which is the first one in decades in South Carolina. And I don't know why they chose that place. I mean, it's pretty out here for sure, but it's like right across from my neighborhood. I'm like, I'm never going to sell this house, ever. And it's going to be a cash cow. Like, it's going to be one of those homes they're going to own forever just for cash flow. It might be even a great Airbnb, where people coming in need to live somewhere because they're getting invited to play golf over here and just go into my house and just have it as an Airbnb, as like a furnished rental. It's kind of like the vision I have for that, try to leverage that up. And right now, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to refi my fourplex out because we made like major renovations on that, has major equity. It cash flows really nicely, but my return on equity is pretty low because it cash flows good, but I have a major equity in it. So I want to pull that out, compress a little bit of the cash flow, and then just buy another asset that cash flows me. It's just like, it's play Monopoly, right? 4 houses, then a hotel. So it's the same game.
And what a lot of people would say, as you're saying that, is that there's a lot of risk in saying, when you said, I could put a large down payment to get a lower house payment, but I'd rather put it into a rental property. And it goes right back to literally, I think the first thing we started talking about is more units creates that's the diversity. We're creating income across multiple units so that we're not spread, we don't just have our main income source out of 10 to 20 units. We're spreading it out over hundreds of units, whether you're getting this much of the rent because you're sharing it with everyone else. It's still spreading it out to where your income is more stable. And when it comes to like, quote unquote, the retirement age or financial freedom, you're making more what they would call bigger risks as you're leaving your W-2, but you have built out this steady income stream and it's built out over a lot of units. So you're kind of spreading your risks of lack of income, so you're able to take the bigger swings, which seem like bigger risks to somebody that doesn't have the income, but somebody that does have the steady income it becomes more of a calculation moving forward.
Correct. That's absolutely right. So what it's kind of funny story I could tell the audience here is before I got into real estate, between like 2017, 2019, I had a financial advisor, which I wouldn't recommend doing because the guys, well, the most of the people that just like tell you put in the index fund and then they charge you for it, for the advice. And I was actually interested at that point to do real estate, and he just told me, oh yeah, you can do like timeshares maybe and stuff. At that point I was like, what's a timeshare? And then looking back, I'm like, this guy is an idiot. Sorry for saying that, but man, that was horrible advice. I didn't do it, but we were always talking about like how much I put in my 401k and you can max it out this way, blah, blah, blah. And I did put a lot in my 401k. In hindsight, probably the wrong thing to do because now I'm as a real estate guy, I feel like, it's kind of stupid. But again, I can use that money for other things, obviously, and can invest all that. It's okay. It's a little bit of a war chest as well. If I need to tap into, I can. If really things get dire, which I don't see coming, but anyway. But I was asking a question to my financial advisor, and I asked him like, okay, you calculate me right now, if I retire by this age, I put this much in, it's easy math, right? And then I have this much income. I was like, first of all, let me challenge you this. Like, we don't know what the value of that money will be 30 years from now because we don't know how inflation is going to be over the next 30 years. That money sounds a lot now, but 30 years from now, it might be worthless or worth much less than today, right? Inflation adjusted. Secondly, what happens if I live to 100 years old? What happens then? I basically have like the clock is ticking. It's like, better don't spend too much money, buddy, if you're getting old, because you just basically have a bucket of water and drink from it and you have to zip from it. So that's the way I visualize. My mind is very visual. And I was like, I want to have an income stream that never stops unless I stop it. And if I have a 401k, I'm eating from basically a cake that it's slowly diminishing, or drinking from a bucket that's slowly diminishing. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's so stupid. And then I started like talking to other people, and I realized, okay, that's the way to do it. Reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and his Cash Record and all those books, I realized, okay, I'm playing the game wrong. I have to get into another game. And then 2020 hits, and then I had time to reset and rethink, and then here we are. So I wanted to share that with the audience. I think many people are probably in that situation with financial advisors and maxing out the 401ks and all that stuff. I think there's better ways to do it, in my opinion.
All right. So what I'm about to say, and everything we've said up to this point, is not financial advice or tax advice. So, but what I'll tell you, what I have done with mine, I retired. I left my W-2 with about $300,000 in my 401k, and being in deals, you're like, what the heck? What am I doing with this 300,000? It's like, but I can tell you what I did, and I would not say this is for everybody because being a real estate professional, you get different tax treatment. But what I did is we had a deal in like December. It wasn't this December, but it was like 2023. I pulled $100,000 out of my 401k IRA and rolled it into a real estate deal. And because it's considered earned income, and then they charge a 10% penalty. So the way you can look at a 10% penalty, very easy. Just say, hey, I'm going to make more than 10% on this investment, ideally. And so the other thing is, okay, now I have the taxes on $100,000 that I have to pay. So that's the part that you're like, this is expensive. And what I can tell you is that I don't know what the big beautiful bill looks like yet, but I have a feeling there's 100% cost seg. And when you take that money out, for me, I was able to deduct like 100% of that investment. So I pretty much wrote off 100,000 with losses with that investment. So I pretty much had to pay $10,000 for ideally income for the rest of my ideally life. I have access to it now. So then I did it in December, and then I found another deal in January. And then the next January came around, I did another $100,000 because that was just the plan. Is like, how do I spread this investment out and I can increase my income, which increasing my income reduces my risk. So the income from the property should pay for that 10% penalty. And if not, it'll pay it over the next year or so, year and 18 months, ideally for me. And that was my thought process is, okay, how do I get access to this money? some people might have strong incomes. They don't need to do that. They might have, and they're not getting into the actual real estate world. That might be better to self-direct IRA. But for like the self-employed real estate people, I think not any financial advice, but it's been my story of how it worked for me. And I've I've talked to a few people and they're like, I've never thought of it that way, and I might start thinking about it.
Same here, because I just left my W-2 early this year, so I'm wondering what to do with my 401k. That's close to 200,000 in it, so not far away from what you have. I'm wondering too, what's the best use for this? What's the highest and best use of that money? So let me look into this. I know it's not financial advice, of course, but I definitely look into this. It's a really smart idea because we do cost segregation studies on everything. Yep. And if 100% bonus depreciation comes back, I mean, we all as real estate professionals get major benefits from that. So it might be worth just tapping that money, pay that penalty, and the penalty gets wiped out, or the tax at least. So yeah, that might be the way to go.
Yeah, it was something that I did, and it changed my trajectory. Like it was like, the way I did it, it was just it was like almost like a no brainer for me at the time. I was like, this doesn't even. And I told my wife, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And she's like, whatever you say.
Same my wife. I trust you with money. Just do it. It doesn't make sense in the moment, but it will if you explain to me.
Yeah, so. Definitely.
Yeah, that's same thing happened with like when we had issues with our duplex just this year, and she was managing it. So it's kind of a loophole too, right? And again, no tax advice, no financial advice here for the audience. But like when we started and with the real estate thing, we did property management in-house because we just wanted to learn how it works. And so what we did, my wife is like awesome with people. She's really a people's person. People say that a people person, but usually the people that say it are not. But she's one of the ones she doesn't say, but she is one from the outside seeing that. And she's really great with like hugging the tenants with one arm and strangling them with the other if they don't pay, if they don't behave, etc. But she has a really good rapport with tenants. And she started doing that full time. And she was managing not only a duplex, a fourplex, and then we got into commercial. She managed that as well. She had the real estate professional status then because she did it as a full-time gig, which offsets my income at my W-2. So we can build that war chest of, savings and so forth. So I can make that jump earlier, right? Even if the cash is not quite there yet. So that's all those little strategies combined create this massive compound effect that you can make that move. Many people just think and focus on like the cash flow number only. Yes, it's important, but there's so many other strategies you can do around it that it makes the other one not as important. It's important. Don't get me wrong. The cash flow is super important. It's a defense mechanism, right? If you run out of cash flow, you have a problem, of course. But look at the other ones, right? Just speaking to the audience, look at the other factors as well. How can you maximize like the tax plan or whatever, or the tax laws and tax rules and use them to your advantage? Something like that. And I think with like short-term rentals, they have that loophole as well, I think, because they're somewhat of an exception because they're more active, I believe. So I think you can do that as well when you actually manage a short-term rental and you do a cost seg on that. You can actually wipe out the active income without having to be a real estate professional. Like, I never did it. I just heard it from people. But
there's a different loophole with that, though. It's not exactly real estate professional, but it's more of a hospitality.
Exactly.
But I've heard it's a different tax rule, obviously. But yeah, I've heard a lot about. I've talked to one person about it just recently, and they were telling me that it's not exactly real estate professional, but it's like a hospitality deduction or something like that.
Yeah, correct. That's what it is.
Cool. So the one thing I just to reiterate as we're talking about financial freedom is, even at my stage and your stage, it seems like we're about at the same place. And I would say that savings rate with the properties, savings rate with our personal lives, I believe that's how you de-risk. And it's like, do you have that big septic tank that comes up? And if you have a good savings rate, you'll be ready for it. Or if you have the life event that, some income shuts off, you don't need the whole thing to operate,
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Back to the duplex situation, right? On my end, it's like HVAC went out, and then actually what happened, the tenant didn't say anything, and it was leaking for a while. There was a lot of moisture in the duct system, so we had to replace entire ducting as well. So it was like a $10,000 repair, which wipes out a lot of cash flow. I'm like, it sucks, but the other properties cover it. I mean, my wife was kind of like looking at it isolated, like, oh my God, I'll be losing money on this. And I was like, well, we have 600 other units, so I don't really care too much. So I care, of course, but I'm like, whatever, move on, cut the check. Is this the best option? We get a couple quotes, asking our best guys to give us a good quote. And everybody was within like $1,000. I'm like, hey, that must be really a $10,000 job then, because the deducting was like over half of that. There was a lot of labor involved. We get really good rates locally with like new HVAC units with guy we know. So it's the best we could do on this thing. And it's a 3-2, so it's quite a large unit on each side. So it's what it is. But then you de-risking it the more units you have, right? So it makes a lot of sense diluting that. If you would just have that duplex, that would stink, of course, because you would just wipe out a lot of cash flow and feel like, oh, this is not working. I thought I'm doing well for 2 years, and then this happens. But if you look at that, like let's say I would own this thing for 30 years, I'm sure it would be just a blip, just like this half year where it was like, oh, this 1 year didn't look as well. But over 30 years, it's going to be a different story. And it's in the growing market, it's going to appreciate. You can refi money out and rinse and repeat, right? Buy more properties and de-risk even more and let it snowball.
Awesome. So where can people find you?
I'm very active on Facebook and LinkedIn, Matthias Grüenwald, and also Instagram. Instagram handles like Matthias_Grüenwald_89. Easiest way probably is to find is wcginvestments.com. You see what we do there. You can sign up for our newsletter. We always show people what we're doing very transparently and showing webinars and stuff like that. If you go on my Facebook and I'm also LinkedIn, there's a little handle on it for a free ebook. It kind of shows like why we like mobile home parks so much and why we invest in them. And what we can do for our investors.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Millionaire Journey podcast. Please rate, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with somebody you think would enjoy listening.